Having finished the Fallout TV show, not only was I pleasantly surprised, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and then rewatching certain parts of it and thinking about it, I came to the conclusion that I think this is the best video game to TV adaptation we've had. Now, some years ago that wouldn't be saying much, but we've come a long way since the days of Uwe Boll, and now we have things like The Last of Us and Cyberpunk Edgerunners, although we still have things like Halo. But there's a lot to love in the Fallout TV series, and I want to highlight 3 aspects that I think we're not talking about enough that makes it not just fantastic television, but that video game adaptation that I have always wanted and really never see done. So hi, I'm MugThief, welcome to the channel. Let's get into some Fallout. And the first thing to talk about is how the Fallout TV show follows the structure of the games, and it uses that to its advantage. See, a show like The Last of Us really only has to take a very linear game and translate it to the screen. Other shows like Cyberpunk Edgerunners or Castlevania take a lot of the universe, but then they spin it off in their own direction with their own characters, their own story, and a lot of it doesn't really tie back to the core or completely reinvents that core. But Fallout, like many other franchises, requires a lot of its elements to be present for it to be Fallout. And I just didn't expect them to translate so many of those elements, including the feeling of roaming the wasteland. The opening of the show for 2 of the characters, being Cooper and Lucy, follows the Fallout structure to a T. We get a glimpse of where Cooper's life is just before the bombs drop, and that leaves us with a lot of questions about the character, and still creates a lot of intrigue for newer viewers, because we're going to talk a lot about how this show treats people who are completely unfamiliar with the franchise throughout this kind of review video. I did watch it with my girlfriend, who has 0 exposure and 0 knowledge to anything regarding Fallout, so I got to experience that with her takes on the show. But setting up that same stage of intrigue for the viewer, they also set it up with Lucy, who has a much more familiar setup to a person who has played the games and is still just as effective for people who have not played any of them. Starting off as a vault dweller that's been isolated forever, and therefore through her eyes we can view the wasteland and share in the same questions that she has about the world of the surface. She has her own mysteries to uncover, primarily what exactly is the experiment going on in her vault, which she doesn't even know that the vaults were all experiments yet, and that shows up again later. But from there, I really thought the show would fall into a groove that imitated something like The Last of Us, plus Walking Dead, and maybe a little bit of the Fallout tone. But instead of that, it just continues feeling like a Fallout game. From the way that the 3 protagonists crisscross and meet at different locations that end up feeling like quests, to side questing. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the entire show when Walton Goggins' character Cooper Howard acknowledges how the show itself is delving into that side questing nature of the Fallout games, with the golden rule of the wasteland being thou shalt get sidetracked by something every goddamn time. And there's no better example of this than, and spoilers, skip to the timestamp where it says end of spoilers if you haven't watched the show. We're good now, right? Vault 4. Even the way that Vault 4 is introduced, with Maximus being injured and them looking for supplies, and of course seeing a big building that says Hawthorne Medical, that must be the best location to get some of those medical supplies. And this mimics a lot of how the game would be, either because you're knocking on every door because that's how you encounter cool stuff, or because you are actively looking for medical supplies for Stimpaks and Radaway and things like that. You would see that, and then you would walk in. And down to the way that they walk in, and the set design there, I mean, the lamps look like the ones in the game. There's a lot of attention to detail and great references throughout the show, but again, many people have already covered that. It's the fact that they just fall into a vault. You walk into a building or into a subway station or into whatever, and you end up uncovering a vault is such a Fallout experience. And then they get sidetracked for almost 2 whole episodes figuring out what this vault is about, what's going on with Vault 4, and what was the experiment there, what is the mystery to uncover, much like you would get sidetracked in the games. And much like in the games, it really doesn't affect the main quest or the main storyline of the characters. It does serve to further a bit of the relationship between Lucy and Maximus, but not really in a way that impacts the final outcome. It's just another way to flesh out the world and tell cool stories, which, in my opinion, is what Fallout is all about. If anything, and I mean this isn't the largest of complaints, but I think that the show could have done with more of this, specifically with a longer runtime that facilitated more of them going on kooky adventures. And if we need suspension of disbelief due to the time constraints of the actual main plotline, it's fine. It feels video gamey, but in a way that I enjoyed in this show and didn't make me scream, hey, why are you guys not doing the world-ending quest thing? Because this is Fallout, and it's about those secondary characters. It's about the settlements and the stories that you find. It's about the history of these places and connecting the pieces of why they are the way they are. And for the show to be not only willing to do that, but make it something that it itself acknowledges that it wants to focus on, feels great. It's turning the heart of the games into a benefit for the TV show and the storytelling that they want to do, instead of just taking the universe and trying to mold specific parts of it into what somebody considered to be a good show. That's the difference that really made it feel to me like Fallout was being true to Fallout. And that continues in the portrayal of the world. And that's my second point here. The show really doesn't cater to a lowest common denominator. It hasn't been sanitized or changed in any meaningful way to appeal to a mass market audience. Of course, there's always some hedges that need trimming, and there's some streamlining to be done when you have to fit everything in this form, but I think they did an excellent job at preserving the universe and the deep lore of Fallout to the point that I think a new viewer might be quite lost at a lot of things when people who have experience with the games will understand a lot of the stuff that's going on much more, but still enjoy it and have brand new questions that they want answers to. It's a show that very carefully rewards the viewer in a way that I like to say is good television. From small details like how in episode 1 they focus on a little sign that says, "Don't lose your head," which was really funny to remember once you get into the first arc of the series, to how the little clues are spread out of what exactly is going on with each of the vaults and with the situation of the world and who each person is and what their role is. As more and more information is slowly doled out, it feels like a real mystery that you would solve in the Fallout games, where if you're paying close attention, you can come to some pretty good conclusions that give you that detective feel of, yes, I got it right, I knew what this meant. And it also doesn't cheapen many of those mysteries by just pulling out a plot twist from nowhere. It's this mental test that I have with a lot of shows that if I get up and go to the bathroom and leave the audio in the background and I still understand everything that's going on, I get this feeling that it has been carefully made so that people that are on their phones or not really paying attention to it are still being fed most of the information that they need to view it even from the bathroom just listening, and that is not the case with Fallout. Whenever I would go to the bathroom and leave it on, I would come back and have to ask my girlfriend, wait, what happened? There was just silence. And he was like, they showed this thing, I don't know what it is. And I would rewind and be like, oh damn, actually, that's really important. And that is, the thing we always say, that's good in TV because you're supposed to watch it, not hear it. And it does command your attention in that way with very compelling storytelling that does not compromise what Fallout is. And speaking of not compromising, that to me is the third point of it, how it nails tone. Of all of those things that make Fallout what it is, and there's a lot of them that can't be ignored even when adapting it to TV, the tone of Fallout is really important. If you took away all of the wacky wasteland humor from it, if you took away some of the more whimsical, almost magical realism aspects of Fallout and just left it as the wasteland, the vision that it is of a post-apocalypse, it would be profoundly depressing. This is a wasteland where absolutely everyone is in constant danger, and life has no value higher than maybe a bottle cap. You can die from anything at any time, and everyone is out to get you in this universe. And that could be overbearing and depressing, but it's the humor that keeps Fallout alive. That mixture of tone where, yes, you took the bloody mess perk because it's free 5% damage and now people explode into clouds of limbs. And that is in the show, with even callbacks to how something would work in slow motion with VATS. And all of that backed with some Ink Spots song is going to create that Fallout tone, of course, but you don't always nail it. If it were easy to do, more people would do it. They could have messed it up very easily in a number of different ways when translating that to a TV show, but it manages to have people laughing at limbs being blown off by Cooper Howard shooting people with his magnum pistol with bullets that say big boom on them, and also have you wince when there's an exchange of fingers. Keeping that comedic but darkly depressing tone of Fallout alive throughout everything is admirable, and it does so throughout some really good pacing. It's not perfect throughout the show, but generally speaking, some good pacing that navigates a lot of different moods really well. From hopelessness to optimism to big reveals that are meant to be dramatic, hitting as big dramatic reveals, and big dramatic reveals that are presented to you with comedy, landing funny but still giving you a oh damn moment as you come to a realization. And going through all of those with that through line in the middle of the Fallout tone was never going to be easy. And I think they pulled it off. All in all, the Fallout TV show feels like a group of people understood that what Fallout needed as a TV show was not to change what the games are, but instead to just translate it and put it in front of a larger audience, knowing that by eliminating the barrier that is a big barrier for a lot of people of picking up a controller or sitting down at your mouse and keyboard, they would enjoy it just the same as millions of people that are into gaming have enjoyed it before. They tried to preserve as much of what makes the game successful as possible when turning it into a TV show. And understanding that, instead of trying to change it and say, well, the idea is good, but if we just do something completely different, the idea will sell it. No, it's not just the idea. It's all of the small details that make Fallout work. It's the characters, it's the side quest structure, it's the tone, and of course, it is that setting, the premise of it, all together that make it successful. And I think that there was no smarter decision on the whole show than to preserve it instead of change it. Also, just briefly in a more general review type of tone, I think the three characters are great. I think that Cooper Howard, I think that he is now just a straight up iconic character of the Fallout lore. He fits in so well, and his entire concept is just quintessential Fallout to me. The ghoul gunslinger with the past and connections to Hollywood and to other things that I don't want to say fits perfectly with all of his motivations, and he would be a fan favorite companion if he were in any of the games. I think Maximus is a little bit less fleshed out, and I do feel like maybe a lot of his concept as a character is kind of Finn from Star Wars, but if Finn had some more dramatic internal turmoil to overcome and evolve as a character. But I especially think they did an excellent job with Lucy, because creating a character that can serve as that viewer insert to view the world from, while still having a complex character that is enjoyable to watch and grow and change, that has real character development as she goes from naive vault kid to person that still wants the best for the world, but understands how the world works and is willing to be a little bit more savvy up top. That they did that really well. I'm really happy with everything that the show has done, and again, keeping spoilers to a minimum, I'm really excited for what they are teasing for a second season, as I don't think it's a secret what my favorite Fallout game is. So yeah, I'm really excited for what they seem to be cooking up. I have no idea what Todd Howard and Emil's involvement was beyond their credits of executive producers, but if they had anything to do with the series itself, as a person who has been highly critical of a lot of more recent Bethesda decisions and games, guys, more of this. This is good. You're on the right track. Thank you for making me excited about the Fallout universe once again, and let's hope we can ride this wave into not just a second season, but into people actually being excited for Fallout 5. I've been Mugthief, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, it helps out a ton. If you want more of my opinions, including my long in-depth analyses, remember to subscribe. That's the best way to keep up with all of the things I make. And if you subscribe, I will love you forever, much like I do with my wonderful patrons who support me with the $1 wall, that if you want to join, the link is in the description below. And as always, I'll see you again very soon.